Is the sound plugged in? It is. It's okay, just 1 second. Technical problems for a second. Are you seeing the development of this thus far? Yes. Okay. It's very clear. Okay, here we go. Thank you very much. I'm not going to even do this one yet. Let's move forward. Through fraud and falsehood, Satan is now using those who claim to be Christians to divorce the world from God's mercy. They are working in blindness. They do not see that if a Protestant government, meaning the U.S., sacrifices the principles that have made them a free, independent nation, and through legislation brings into the Constitution principles that will propagate papal falsehood and papal delusion, they are plunging into the Roman horrors of the Dark Ages. Pope calls for a New World Order, right?
Certain that we stand at a defining hour. Halfway around the world, we are engaged in a great struggle in the skies and on the seas and sands. We know why we're there. We are Americans, part of something larger than ourselves. For 2 centuries, we've done the hard work of freedom, and tonight, we lead the world in facing down a threat to decency and humanity. What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law. We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
President Clinton.
1945 and the end of the war through 1989 and the end of the Cold War, we had a worldview. Republican and Democratic presidents alike, from Harry Truman to George Bush, stood for freedom and stood for certain propositions that would make America strong and healthy and grow the middle class and shrink poverty and stand against communism. And after 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
Clinton calls for a new world order. Here you have Bush Jr. meeting up with Pope Benedict XVI, and as you know, we had Bush Sr., Bush Jr., President Clinton, all attending the funeral of the Pope. Presidents of a Protestant nation. Are you following? And notice that they're calling for the same thing that the Pope is calling for, a new world order. Does that go against republicanism? Yes, it does. This is John Kerry. This is our current Secretary of State.
With the end of the Cold War, Henry Kissinger pointed out in his superb book on diplomacy, he said, "None of the most important countries which must build a new world order have had any experience with the multi-state system that is emerging. Never before has a new world order had to be assembled from so many different perceptions or on so global a scale. Nor has any previous order had to combine the attributes of the historic balance of power system with global democratic opinion and the exploding technology of the contemporary period." That was written in 1994, and it may be even more relevant today.
Our current Secretary of State also, in line with the concept of initiating a new world order, here he is John Kerry taking the Catholic Mass. This is the Secretary of State currently for the United States of America taking the Catholic Mass. Keep going. This is our current Vice President. Let me run that back. This is our current Vice President, Joe Biden. Let me go for it. Just want you to hear everything very clearly.
With the end of the Cold War, Henry Kissinger...
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order, because the global order is changing again.
So our current Vice President says that the affirmative task that we have right now is to create a new world order. Are you listening to this? That's completely against a republic.
Vice President Joe Biden will attend the Pope's installation Mass. Biden arrived at a military airport near Rome Sunday evening. He's the first Roman Catholic to serve as Vice President.
Joe Biden is a practicing Roman Catholic. Brothers and sisters, tell me, where's the protest? Where's the protest coming from the U.S.? Where's the strong Protestant horn? Let's keep going. Here he is meeting Pope Francis.
Pope Francis said the other day that the Catholic Church, without changing the Church's positions, he said it had become too obsessed on issues like gay rights and abortion. What did you think of the Pope's remarks, and do you see any broader applicability beyond the Catholic Church?
I tell you, I have been hugely impressed with the Pope's pronouncements. Not because of any particular issue, but first of all, he seems somebody who lives out the teachings of Christ. Incredible humility, incredible sense of empathy to the least of these, to the poor. And he's also somebody who's...
Where's the protest? Where's the protest, brethren? He thinks he's Jesus.
I think...
This is the United States Supreme Court justices. This is the highest lawmaking body in the land, in the U.S. There are 9 Supreme Court justices. 6 of them are practicing Roman Catholics. So, we have a Secretary of State takes the Catholic Mass. Vice President practicing Roman Catholic. We've got a president that's willing to jump in the lap of the Pope like he's Santa Claus. And we've got 6 practicing Supreme Court justices that are Roman Catholics. Brothers and sisters, the Protestant horn has been weakened. You know what that makes the U.S.? A young and weak nation. You don't think the papacy's been watching? You don't think the papacy sees now? I think that this beast is going to give me the power I need to be healed. Oh, brother. I'm not going to even read this article. Too much time. Let me read this part. Look at this. The Holy See advocate... No, I want to read this part here. No two sovereigns, speaking of the United States and Holy See, no two sovereigns are more naturally aligned than the United States and the Holy See in the pursuit of diplomacy founded on the core moral principles of the inalienable rights of man, his essential God-granted human dignity, and the right of all to religious freedom. That is a lie. This is rightly called the first freedom because our other freedoms seldom flourish in absence. This article, I don't feel like going through all of it with you right now. This article was put out by, it was Newsweek, I believe it was. But the writer of this article was actually the first ambassador. Is it ambassador? Is that the correct terminology? He was the first, I believe I'm correct, the first ambassador that was set to go to the Vatican by Ronald Reagan. Say it again. I think I'm actually right when I'm saying ambassador. I could be, but it's not envoy. Forgive me, I'm a bit tired. Let's move forward, though. I want you to hear this article because this one kills me. Remember, Rome never changes, right? Right? This article is from 2007. I want you to listen to this. I know that many of you won't just get it right off the bat, but you will get it. The Catholic Church is the only religious institution that can enter into diplomatic relations and that interests itself in international rights. Matter of fact, before I go any further, I want to read the first paragraph so you understand what's going on here. The human being has dignity and a transcendent dimension. We're going to talk about that transcendent dimension by the time we get to the end of this article. And this is why an independent moral authority such as the Holy See has a role to play in international organizations, says an official at the Vatican Secretariat of State. So they're saying humanity has these two aspects to us, our dignity and our transcendent dimension. And this by itself says that we need an independent moral authority, being the Holy See, to play a role in international relations. Now watch this. We're going to see what this is all about. The Catholic Church is the only religious institution that can enter into diplomatic relations and that interests itself in international rights, acting through the Holy See, an international sovereign subject of singular characteristics, Monsignor Parolin said. He explained that an adequate understanding of the Holy See as such requires two distinctions. First, one must bear in mind that the Holy See cannot simply be identified with the Church as a community of believers. And second, it cannot be identified with Vatican City State, a geographical place that assures the freedom of the Roman pontiff. Do you see what they're trying to say? They're trying to say that the Holy See, which is basically the government structure of the Rome, okay? They transcend the church and that little city-state. They have a wider global role than that. You can't just isolate them to the Catholic Church and that. No, they have tentacles that must reach out everywhere. Watch this. The Holy See is the Holy Father himself. Is God bound to a little piece of land? That's their point. Don't you get it? He's the Holy Father himself, inasmuch as he is an independent, universal spiritual authority, together with the organizations of the Roman Curia that collaborate with his mission he defined. The Holy See thus requires a particular status. It requires a different status in your minds, a different status in society, such as that given by the definition of subject su, I can't say that right, meaning the Holy See defines for itself its judicial organization and does not receive it from outside, and as such can enter into relationships with other states. Now here it gets interesting. There exists, the Monsignor affirms, something that goes above and beyond the material element. The key, he explained, is the dignity of man, which is prior to the existence of the state. Respect for his dignity is the thermometer of the legitimacy and justice of any legal norm. And his dignity, and this dignity of the individual has an essential element, the transcendent dimension, he said. So there's a dignity of man that's existed before the state. That means that the state should have no power over the dignity of man because it was in existence before a state. Are you following? And he's saying, and in connection with that, there's another dimension. It's a transcendent dimension. You're going to find out what it is in a second. If man did not transcend the material dimension, there would not be sufficient reason for the respect of his dignity to be over and above national interests, observed Monsignor Parolin. This preexistence and independence of the dignity of the individual, and more concretely his transcendent dimension, is the ultimate justification for the existence of a sovereign moral authority independent of the states. Did you get what this transcendent dimension is? What is this transcendent dimension that states have to respect above national interests? Brothers and sisters, it's your freedom of conscience. Does not the state have to respect your freedom of conscience over the interests of the state? It does. That's what he's talking about. And he says, because this thing is in existence, this transcendent dimension, you know what? They also say man does not have the ability to govern over this transcendent dimension.